Hello everyone and welcome to an Unpeeled review. My name is Logan, this is Jenna, and that is Isaiah. And today we're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors.
So, what do we initially think of the movie?
Really good.
Really good. What makes it really good, Jenna?
I liked that it was a direct continuation from the previous movie. That I like when movies do that and it doesn't start with like a whole nother backstory or anything and it just like jumped right in. So as soon as you started watching the film, I loved that about it. As soon as it started, I was like, oh yes, this is exactly where we left off. So I really liked that about the opening scene.
Does Tom Holland hold a very special place in your heart, Jenna?
Tom Holland holds a special place in everyone's heart, every woman's heart.
Sounds like some other.
Sounds like someone else.
Yeah, sounds like someone else. So, I mean, like, I wonder who that would be.
Moving on.
This movie is basically the end game of Spider-Man. What I mean by that is this movie has so much fan service to the fans of Spider-Man. It has callbacks, has Easter eggs. And so for someone who loves Spider-Man, this movie will be such a treat for you. It basically starts off with the reveal that Spider-Man is Peter Parker and Mysterio reveals his identity. And so we have this really cool kind of like swing scene with him and MJ as they swing through the city in panic, essentially, not knowing really what to do. And so get back to their apartments and, you know, there's obviously some comedy here and there with Happy and Aunt May. So when they actually do reveal his identity, they have to lawyer up because it's revealed actually in this movie that Daredevil from the Netflix series is in this universe, which has so many implications on the future. You can bring in Luke Cage now. You can bring in Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. You can bring in the Defenders. So the expectations is limitless, really. And now what Marvel can now bring into this universe. Everyone knowing his identity, he thinks to himself, like, how can I, change this? Especially since it's now hurting his loved ones. This is hurting MJ's and Ned's futures, essentially, for getting into MIT. So his bright idea is to use magic, essentially. So he goes to the Sanctum, Doctor Strange's place.
Which I thought the tie-in was so perfect. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies was Doctor Strange. And so when they actually spend so much time dealing with him in his universe, I thought that was such a good tie-in because sometimes movies just kind of do a quick it's over. Yeah. But they actually they actually had a full sequence that he was in a mirror universe and
that was really cool.
Peter goes to him, I want to erase everyone's memory of who I am. And at first Doctor Strange is like, I can't do that anymore because I don't have the time stone. Doctor Strange says to Peter but how about if we use a spell so everyone in the world will forget that you are Spider-Man.
So Peter wants to change it too much. He keeps asking I want Aunt May to remember. And of course Ned, my best friend. And of course MJ is my girlfriend. And all these people. And then he's changing it while he's doing the spell. And that's basically what makes everything go nuts, is because Doctor Strange tries to change the spell too many times while casting the spell, which then
that makes it unstable, and because it becomes unstable, he tries to contain it. But as he contains it, later on in the movie, we realize that actually some visitors from the different multiverses who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man gets brought into this.
The spell was reversed.
So instead of everyone forgetting, it's bringing in everyone who knows who is Spider-Man.
Who Peter Parker is.
Yeah, who Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Not this specific Spider-Man, but just
Peter Parker.
It brings in fan favorites, Doc Ock. It brings in Sandman. It brings in Green Goblin. It brings in Electro. It brings in Lizard. And each of these villains, it holds together very well somehow.
And again, it just shows that they've done this before with all of those other Marvel movies, like the Avengers, right? They've had so many people. So the experience, I think, it didn't feel overbearing or heavy. Sometimes where they put too much backstory or they don't put enough backstory. You're kind of like, who the heck is this guy? I loved how when Electrode came in to the scene and he was creating all this havoc and then the Sand Dude helped him.
Helped Peter Parker.
And that showed you that this guy isn't just a bad guy. That they all have personalities and they all have different So I like that part of it, and I think that was really interesting.
Like you have Electro, who later on we learn about, like, oh, he just likes the energy that is radiating from this place.
He likes how it makes him feel.
Exactly, so he wants to stay.
It makes him feel important and feel like needed.
Yeah.
And then
like he's worth something.
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
first movie, he was like a janitor or something, but he's also like a really smart guy.
Yeah, true.
And so like nobody
kind of
respected
like
him.
yeah, he felt like very looked over.
So how about this? Favorite villain that was in the movie?
Personally think, like, don't get me wrong, I think each and every single villain holds their own on screen, but there's something about Green Goblin. There is something about William Dafoe, and I personally love his actor. Like, he just plays the Green Goblin just so maniacally, and like I feel like he had the best time filming this movie because you could just see it. Like I like it's just like his energy that he brings to the table. His like and when you really think about it too, is like when he first played it in the Sam Raimi trilogy, like what Spider-Man 1, the very first Spider-Man movie that came out. You could see even then he had that maniacal energy about him, and he brings it back in full display and full.
So I really like that character, but I like Doc Ock.
Doc Ock, really?
Because I never saw the old first ones.
Yeah.
The first ones, and so that character, I just liked the way he talked. I liked his art, and also just like wants to kill Peter, and he says like he's very focused, and he's like nothing can help me, and. So I mean, and also he's got like really cool octopus arms. So I have to definitely watch those movies. But out of what I just liked the way he talked and communicated with all the other villains. I thought it was just really cool.
I also like the Green Goblin.
Okay.
I like the acting. I thought was like very spot on, especially going like from in the head to like who he really is, and then just him not remembering when he like goes on these rage evil rampages, and then he kind of comes back and he's like, what did I do? And especially that beginning scene when they're in an alley, or the first time when you really see
like they're battling over who gets supremacy over his mind.
Yes, the mask on the dumpster. That scene, you're like, whoa, it's so creepy, but it's like very well done, and I feel like it's a great introduction to the character, especially if people aren't very familiar.
You got it right away.
Yeah.
So now Doctor Strange, who's pretty pissed off.
He's like, you didn't call.
Yeah. He's like, this is your first option. There's a lot of other things you could have done.
I love that. And he's like, wait, you can call them?
Yeah. Well, to be honest though, I didn't know you could call them.
I mean, that's such a not teenager, but like.
It is. He is a teenager.
I mean, they captured the essence of the kids so well.
Very well.
I mean, I'm thinking of myself when I'm thinking of just like applying to college or things like that. It's just like so accurate, the dialogue. I was like, it didn't ever feel out of place.
I mean, even Doctor Strange mentions it himself in the movie. It's like, after everything we've been through, I just kind of forget that you were actually a kid.
Yeah, because they've been through a lot. Which, can we just talk about his magic in this movie? How cool it is. Like he is like in the first movie of Doctor Strange, right? He's kind of a beginner. You can clearly see he's a master now. Like
he is beyond pro.
Beyond.
And he just goes whoosh,
leveling up.
Like when Peter traps him in the cage, and he's like, and he's not even trapped, but he just walks out, and that was just so good.
Yeah, he was kind of like, fire disturbance, out of my way.
Yeah.
So once they get everyone, Doctor Strange has this kind of contraption where he traps his spell, and there's this button where if you press it, it will send everyone back to their universes. Yeah. However, the conflict comes into play where Peter learns that most of these guys are dead in their universe. Norman Osborn, he's dead. Dr. Octavius, he's dead. The Lizard, he's dead.
And they're usually dead because of Peter Parker.
Yeah, and they're dead because
Electro dies from overloading on the grid, right?
Exactly, yeah. So most of these guys are gonna die if they send them back. Peter having the nice heart that he does, and with also some, inspiration for Aunt May, because Aunt May was like
Goblin guy.
Yeah.
He is found on the street and he's going like, I just need help. Like there's someone in my head. Like and Aunt May runs a shelter.
Yeah, she runs a shelter called Feast.
Exactly. So then she goes and it's like, you gotta help these people. These people aren't just like nobodies.
Yeah, she's like, they have real problems like, up here.
Because of that conflict, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange get into fisticuffs. They actually start fighting each other. And when you really think about it, like you think of Doctor Strange's experience actually like, in his fighting, and I mean, like, I think that Spider-Man should have lost that fight realistically. Realistically, he should have lost that fight.
I think Doctor Strange was not trying to fight him, because you can see that he's just trying to get the thing back and like, fix everything.
He's like, I just want
he's
this
not
to be
fighting
done.
him.
He's like, it is what it is. If they die, they die. That's just how it is. Like, this is life. And Spider-Man is more like
This isn't
about
life and
his
death.
heart. It's so he's like, no, but I can save them. And so that's where like the
He's very childish in his.
Yeah, he's like, I want to
wishes.
save everybody.
Very naive and kind of naive in that way, though.
Very naive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But again, that's where you see the child of him really like shine through.
So I don't think Strange was trying to like. I mean, Strange probably could have won, but he was also being like very nice to Peter and helping him out.
Yeah, definitely. And so, because of that, because Peter wants to save them, he goes into like Happy's house, and so he brings all the villains with them because at the end of the day, it's either they go with him or they die.
Yeah.
So
he convinces all of them to actually, because they're all right now all locked up. He caught all of them, and then he convinces them to get cured. And then he goes and says, "Okay, where can we go? Let's go to Happy's place." And Happy's place has this arc reactor replicator thing that then will recreate anything that they need.
Fabricator. Fabricator, yeah.
Exactly.
And so he does actually fix Doc Ock, but surprise, surprise, the Goblin, he turns back evil. In that moment, in that moment, he turns back evil. You can actually
he hears the Spidey sense.
Yeah, you can feel the Spidey sense, and he even mentions like, "Wow, that's an amazing sense you got there, kid."
Yeah, the way he talks though is so different than
it's so creepy.
Oh,
it gives me the chills.
He's such a good actor that you can do that.
That maniacal energy, like I was saying.
Like,
yeah,
he's not talking any differently, but he is. Like it's
it
just,
really is like.
Oh wow. Yeah, that was really creepy, and everyone then all the other villains, because they were on board with Peter, all of them they're thinking, and Electro had this thing that was taking was going to cure him.
Yeah, it was going to take away his energy.
One bar away from being done, and he sees the Stark thing, the Stark reactor.
Yeah,
and he's like, I want the power, man.
Yeah, there's a line when Goblin says, gods don't ask, they take.
Yeah,
and so after that line. All the villains except for Doc Ock betray Peter. Yeah. And so they all go on a rampage and they all start fighting each other. And you have this scene where Spider-Man is fighting the Green Goblin for the first time.
Yeah.
And so you see actually how like powerful this guy is actually. Like he's like punching Peter like feet away from him.
Yeah.
And so you know he's super strong. You know he can take a punch because you see him like shrug off punches. He's eating those punches through the face.
Honestly,
he's like
not a fair fight.
Yeah, I mean like usually in a superhero movie, I feel like usually when they first fight against the big bad, I guess you can say.
They've been building up to it.
Yeah, they typically lose though in that first fight, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I don't think he's ever fought anyone who's that like maniacal and that like in his head, because he's fought other people and he's always had someone to help him. This was a lone fight, and also like you just had he had no idea what to do.
Yeah, and so like when we get to the climax of this fight, and Aunt May is there, and she tries to inject the Green Goblin with the serum, but it doesn't work.
That's the wrong one.
It's like I guess like it's because like the Green Goblin says something like, "Oh, I watched behind Norman's cowardly eyes. You really think that I would let you take my power away?" And so like it doesn't work, and so he calls in his glider actually to hit Aunt May. And he tosses a bomb, which Peter deflects, and so you think everything's okay. But in the scene that follows, what happens?
Oh, man.
But
you knew she was like, I just need to rest. Like, she lays down and then she's gone. And it's so sad. And Tom Holland does such a good job bringing out, like, his emotion. And he's like, please, like, wake up. Like, come back. Like, May. And it's just... It's so heartbreaking. I was like, no, not Aunt May. Like, I didn't watch any spoilers or anything, even the full trailers, because I just wanted to fully, like, be surprised for the whole movie. So I had no idea that she went, and I was so sad. The scene was just so good, though. Yeah. The acting was really well done. After this fight, Spider-Man is just down, like the Tom Holland version. He's just down on himself, and like, why wouldn't he be? He got bodied, basically. And he felt like it was his fault. That Aunt May died.
And he almost didn't escape the building because, I mean...
he got shot too.
The news guy called it.
J. Jonah Jameson.
Which the news guy is such a turd. He's so annoying.
Oh, I love him though.
He's so annoying.
So great.
He's so obnoxious.
I just really like that actor. Like,
Yeah, no. He's also in the original Sam Raimi trilogy, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, he's the newscaster.
Oh my god,
He's the main newscaster in the original Sam Raimi trilogy.
Like, oh my gosh, like me being Spider-Man is just hurting so many people.
Yeah. And so...
just hearing that in the news, everyone hates him.
Yeah.
Everyone is like, just like saying like, everywhere he goes, calamity and destruction follow.
So the world is against Spider-Man, and he's the most famous person in the world. Everyone knows who he is.
Yeah, and
everyone
he
knows
just
where he
feels
lives.
the literal weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah, and so Ned and MJ, which they are in the possession of the box, because Peter literally on in the movie entrusts this box that if you press the button, they all get sent home.
Yeah.
So they have the box. So Ned and like MJ, they want to see Peter. So it's like, okay, I want to see Peter. And there is this little joke with Ned being magic. And
because he has Doctor Strange's ring. And it's so funny. And he's like, oh, I'm magic. I have magic hands.
I have magic hands.
So that part is hilarious.
Oh, those side characters, I mean, honestly, make the movie for me.
They really do.
It's the best.
Ned and MJ are great.
Fun fact, this is a thing. All of the Spider-Man couples have actually dated in real life.
Yeah.
That's actually
And
interesting.
there's some that are still together. I just know, or at least I think I read that like they're still together. Or it's just like a thing that the MJs and Spider-Man always date for like at some point.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That, like all of the universes kind of like...
Yeah, and speaking of Spider-Man, like let's just like kind of like go back into that where Ned starts using the sling ring, where he's like making a portal, and he's like, I want to see Peter, and we see someone in a Spider-Man costume, coming into the portal. Come here, Peter, and he takes off his mask, and it's Andrew Garfield.
Can we just pause? Because I did not know that was going to happen. And I was sitting in the theater, and I was, like, gripping the sides, and I was just like, oh! I was so shocked. It was the best surprise. Spider-Man.
Yeah, they're like, you're not Spider-Man.
Yeah, and they're making, it's just
like,
so...
And everyone else knows, they're like, he's Spider-Man.
Like, that is Spider-Man, friend.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, then they try again. They're like, okay, I mean, like, we have to find a real Peter. And, Andrew Garfield's computer is like, ouch, no offense. And so he does it again, and another portal opens up behind Ned, and who comes in but Tobey Maguire.
That one,
Tobey Maguire. Oh,
that is so...
my gosh.
I was shocked. I didn't know that. And it was so funny because everyone in the theater was like, yes! Like, oh my gosh. If you know Marvel movies and if you're a big fan, I feel like that's part of the experience is everyone in the theater usually has like a really good vibe. I hate that word. But like everyone is so down for the movie and like so like nerdy about it that whenever things happen, like everyone's clapping or laughing. So when all three Spider-Mans were on the screen, everyone was like freaking out. I was freaking out.
Yeah, it was so
especially because
cool.
I had no idea that was going to happen. And I was like, no way. So
yeah, I mean, I would have died if Tobey Maguire did his little finger gun. Like the whole like
Oh, okay, Logan.
I would have died, man. They should have put that in the movie, but they didn't. So
But I will say that was one of my favorite moments. Seeing all three of them and then the continuation when they go into the last battle and they have the plan, the three of them together is just so...
Oh, the last battle.
The
chemistry between
them
all
figuring themselves out, them like, we've never done this before, how are we going to do this?
And then also them being able to relate to Peter because, he was so down and they lost
They're like
Ben.
and
then he lost Gwen. So it's like they've all lost somebody because Peter was first like, don't tell me how I'm feeling. They're like, no, we do. Like, we lost these people too,
It's actually interesting you mentioned that because even in, before Aunt May dies, she says, with great power also must come great responsibility, which is the term that Uncle Ben used. That's the coin phrase of Uncle Ben. And so even in, you see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, very famously, on the day they died, that was the line they used. With great power comes great responsibility. And that's what propels Spider-Man to be the best superhero he can be.
Exactly.
Because he has that power, because of that, he has a great responsibility to other people and to protect other people. Funny scene where Ned gives the Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man the web cartridges. And Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is looking at this. He's going like, what is that for? And they're like, oh, it's for my web shooters. And then Tobey Maguire, because in that movie, he actually has organic webbing. And so he shoots and like you just see like both of Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland go like,
what? How did you do that?
I was like, how does that happen? There's this funny scene where at first when they're all fighting, they just don't know how to cooperate with each other.
Yeah, they're not like in sync.
And so like you see Tom Holland's like, I want to brag, but I was a part of a team. It was the Avengers. And Tobey Maguire's like, that's great. What is that? Because in their universes, there's no
Avengers. Yeah, and they don't have any other superheroes.
Yeah.
So when they're like talking about this stuff, he's like, okay, how does this help us? Like, we need to fight these guys. And so they kind of figure out that they have to work together and, form a team, way to talk. So they all come up with different Spider-Man names, like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then
and also Andrew Garfield, he's like, I know, I'm Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
It was funny because he's like, I'm not cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to...
Yeah, well, it's the final fight now. And so there's a scene where, MJ falls off the Statue of Liberty where they're fighting.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, when Andrew Garfield catches her because he didn't get to save his Gwen. And also when he's like, are you okay? And then she looks at him and she was like, are you okay?
She doesn't know.
Because she knew, like,
she doesn't know what it means. And he's like,
Yeah. It just, oh my gosh,
Oh.
that scene gave me butterflies.
Dude.
I was like, oh my gosh. But he still got a
He
chance.
cried.
He still
I
got
cried
a
with
chance
him.
to save somebody. So I feel like that he still got a chance.
Because it was like, oh, this is happening again, and she's gonna die, and then he's seeing this happening, and he sees
Tom miss her too.
Yeah, he's Tom going for her, and he's like, oh my gosh, like this is like the same thing, and they even do the same shot of the slow motion of him trying to go.
Yeah.
And so when he catches him, and he's like, are you okay?
And so they're fighting and they start curing all these actual like villains and all these.
They go
stuff.
for the Sandman
first, yeah.
And I thought it was really cool. Like he, was just trying to protect himself. He wasn't really trying to, And so I thought that was cool. And I like the way he comes back. He's like, I'm human again.
Yeah.
You kind of see all themselves, like the reasons they did it, like why they did it, and what they were fighting for. So the fact that they were all able to go back, as whole people kind of was cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They get sent back eventually, but before that, Tom Holland's Spider-Man fights off against Green Goblin for the last time, and this guy is going for the kill.
Yeah, he's smiling as he's getting punched.
He's just so.
He's
and
literally...
then when he's talking to Tom and being like, I know you're angry and like you're the reason why she died, talking about May. I was just like, oh my gosh.
I think his exact line was, I may have been the one who struck the blow, but you were the one who brought her there or something like that.
Yeah, you could have like saved her, but you didn't.
It kind of gets to this point where Doctor Strange is kind of like trying to like get all this, because like the spell that was in this box, the Green Goblin somehow places a bomb inside of it and it blows up. And it causes these fractures in the sky. And when you look at the sky, you can see actually like silhouettes of figures. You saw the Rhino, you saw the Scorpion, you saw Kraven the Hunter. And so you can have now all these characters essentially now in the MCU. Doctor Strange, he's trying to close it up. And he was like, I can't close it and I can't stop
hold
it
for much longer.
Yeah, and so
Tom Holland, not, there's three Peters.
Yeah.
So the Tom Holland Peter goes to the top of the Statue of Liberty and is like, what if everyone forgot who I was?
Oh, that's just good.
And he's like, but Peter, like, I would forget. Everyone you love would forget. No one in the universe would know who you are.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's the only
I mean, they would remember Spider-Man.
No, and then he was like, but it would fix this, right? And he's like, well, and he's like, then that's like, well.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, they would know who Spider-Man is.
They would know who Spider-Man is because, like, eventually later on, we figure out that, like, Happy, like, he says, like, oh, like, how you know her? It's like, oh, through Spider-Man. It's like, oh, same. Yeah. So they know who Spider-Man is. They just don't know Tom Holland anymore. And
Which is really interesting because that's kind of like how it originally was.
Yeah.
It was just Spider-Man and no one knew who it was. So they're going back
to the roots.
There's this like scene where he's with Ned and MJ and they're crying there and they're like
and
because
she tells him she loves him. And then he was gonna say it back, but she's like, come find me and tell me. I was like, oh my god. And then they have that magical kiss, and also everyone in the theater was going nuts during that kiss because again, like they are dating in real life, so it's like, oh my gosh. But I just like the emotion and everything was just so beautiful in that. and the way that the whole movie wrapped up, he tells them he's gonna go find them. Then the spell is done, and he knows no. And so then it flash forwards to him in his really nice outfit, and he's like practicing his speech to MJ, like, I'm Peter Parker. You know me, I know you. And then he gets to the coffee shop or little diner that she works at, and he sees her and Ned. They remember each other, obviously, and they're talking about how he's an engineer at MIT. And then when he goes to talk to her, you can just kind of see that he realizes he doesn't want to mess up her life. Like, they're happy, they're doing what they wanted to do. Yeah. And the reason they weren't going to be able to do that was because of him, so he kind of is like, just a coffee. And that part, it breaks your heart. Yeah. And she's like, Peter Parker, your coffee's ready.
Yeah, it was very weird because she's like...
she's like, why are you saying your whole name like that? You know?
I'm Peter Parker and I want a coffee.
Yeah. So it was very, like, mature of him, and, you know, Spider-Man has,
you can
like,
see him thinking it through.
Yeah.
Like a heart of gold kind of guy, especially Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So I think he just realized, like, this is not, I can't do this right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that kind of shows you his story arc, really, from the very beginning of the movie, being very naive and being very, like, trusting to supervillains who basically ruin, like, his family.
They kill his family, and they kill Aunt May.
I mean, like, obviously, like, you know, you have that, so now...
I mean, you knew that was going to happen eventually. That's how any Spider-Man is, but... Like, the fact that he had to learn that, you know, because he had all those other people in his life to help him, but now...
Yeah, I just find it interesting how instead of Uncle Ben, because Uncle Ben's never mentioned in MCU, like, at all. He's never mentioned once. The only time where he's actually mentioned in the MCU is when Aunt May uses his with great power comes great responsibility. And so when she dies, she takes the place of Uncle Ben, which...
It was so well done. It just, like, I mean... It was very well done.
And so, that was basically the entirety of the movie of Spider-Man. But then we also had this post-credit scene where...
Always stay after the credits, people. If you don't, you're a noob. Like, I mean, this is Marvel, you gotta know, you gotta stay.
Even for non-Marvel movies, you stay. Like,
he makes us stay after... It could be the Teletubbies.
He'd
be
so
like,
annoying.
We gotta stay for after the credits. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn stuff, and you see people.
I mean, at the very end of the day, you'll see, like, the Teletubbies are back.
Yeah.
But they will return. But anyways, so we get to this end credit scene, and they bring in Tom Hardy, Venom from Fox, and so, you know, there's this kind of joke where he kind of goes like, you know, like aliens don't, you know, blip people out of existence. They eat brains. Like, as soon as he gets there, and he's like, it's like I'm here, and it's like Venom's like, we are drunk, Eddie, we have to go, and then he blips back to his universe. But there's this scene where if you stay, you see this like little fidget spinner thing, and it turns out to be a piece of Venom. So now you can bring in Venom to the MCU, which
that's crazy.
Yeah, because
he's alive.
Because now, like, we don't really know if there's an Eddie Brock in this universe, but we do know there's a Flash Thompson, and in the comic books, Flash Thompson becomes Agent Venom, who's kind of a good guy, but you know, he's still kind of like a little crazy, but he's still
crossover, like. Marvel is still working. There's still gonna be superhero.
There's a lot. Yeah.
It's happening.
All right. So
that was
we talked about the
No
movie.
Way Home.
No Way Home, yeah. And so again, like, I just want to say, okay, let's see. What is our final verdict? Scores, yes. Scores right now. Isaiah, give it to me. What is your score?
Okay, I put a lot of thought into this, and I have, as a standalone movie, because you have to look at it as a standalone. Because obviously, like,
that's fair.
MCU, you can, like...
It's huge.
Yeah, you can... It goes so deep.
Connect the dots.
Exactly. So you have to look at it as a standalone. And as a standalone movie, it holds so well. Honestly, it holds so well. I have to give it a 9.5.
9.5.
9.5. Wow. That's a high score.
That's a high score. All right. Jenna, what do you think?
I actually am going to agree with Isaiah and say a 9.5. Because I just feel like you can't give a movie a 10 out of 10. Like, even though I said 10 out of 10 in the beginning, it's just so hard because I feel like no movie's really a 10 out of 10. It's just kind of impossible. But 9.5 is so close, and I loved it, and I would see it again and again and again. So, 9.5. Actually, 9.75.
9.75, all right. Well, I'm going to disagree with Jenna because I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Oh! Just straight up, like, even without...
I just feel like 10 out of 10
even without like knowing the actual like history of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, even without knowing any of that, it's still a very solid movie. And like for me, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero of all time. And so this movie had so much fan service and so much thing, and like I can get why people can be like, oh, it's actually a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 because of these reasons of not knowing who these characters are previously, and I can see that, and I actually consider giving it a 9 actually because of that, because of like again it suffers from a little bit from the end game, where if you don't watch the end game stuff. Or like the movie.
Endgame suffers from that completely, but that's not the point of Endgame.
Yeah, that's not the point. But like, I'm just saying like
it's rewarding for watching all those movies.
Yeah, exactly.
But this movie, I honestly think you could drop anyone in. Obviously, like people know about superheroes, but if you've never even known, you'd be so intrigued.
You would.
And also, they don't leave really much out because it's all there. Like they're not bringing anything else that's not in that universe. They're bringing it to this universe so you can understand it.
Yeah, but just summarizing this all up, I have to give this a 10 out of 10. Just
wow, that's our first
a
10.
10 out of 10. Like, I am beyond blown away, beyond like I have fanboyed so hard in this movie that's just like I wish I was there opening night. I really do. I wish I was there because it would have been crazy, but I wasn't, and so. But it was okay. It was okay. Because like I still got the dopamine effect of just
and
seeing.
He saw it twice, so if he's giving it a 10 out of 10, that means it holds.
Yeah, no, because like after watching it once, when you watch it twice, you know what to expect, and so you actually look for Easter eggs now. You actually look for like things you missed the first time around, and so
it reaffirmed what you thought.
So the sky's the limit to what Marvel can do, and Marvel's just a juggernaut of a franchise.
Disney knows what they're doing.
Yeah, Disney, the House of Mouse knows how to, rack in the dough. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that is our review of Spider-Man No Way From Home. And
No Way Home.
Yeah, No Way Home.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought about the movies in the comments. And stay tuned for next time.
All right, guys, have a good one. All right.
Bye.